Welcome back to Absolutely Marvel and DC. My name is Benny, that is Dan, and that is Sal. And today's episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Into the AM. They got a new lineup of shirts currently out, and you need to go check them out. We'll all be wearing the new ones very soon, or at least me and Dylan will. We got the second batch. Next batch, maybe we'll get Dan a t-shirt. I don't know, he's wearing like a cardigan or a suit right now.
I am wearing a cardigan. It is quite warm. It's nice and cozy.
Very cozy, yeah.
But anyway, guys, today we're going to be talking about, and use the code down below, absolutely, to get 10% off of your order, which if you watch our YouTube memberships video, you'll know why that's kind of a big deal that I now know that. So anyway, all right, so today we're going to talk about Battle for the Super Sons, and we haven't seen the movie yet, so we're not going to discuss the movie directly. But we were having a discussion on Friday about why I like what manga and anime do better than what DC movies do. And so we want to discuss the pros and cons by what DC does versus how anime and manga are handling things. Mm-hmm. And my best example right now is going to be My Hero Academia. And don't worry, we will not be spoiling it at all. So we're not going to do that. Well, you don't care, Sal, but...
No, but, I care about the audience.
I slightly spoiled something for Dan this morning because I didn't realize he didn't even watch episode 1 of season 6 yet.
No, I had not yet.
I thought he at least watched episode 1.
No, I wait till I can binge the whole thing because there is nothing more infuriating than getting partway through, having it end on this epic moment and be like, wait till next time. I'm like, oh no, let me watch all 60
episodes. You would not have survived
episodes.
Early 2000s Dragon Ball Z, would he have,
Trust
Sal?
me, that's where I've got the PTSD from and why I don't do that.
Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
You had that so perfect.
I watched a lot of it.
I've made this argument before, and I'm making a whole video over in Comic Story about the concept of why I think manga is outselling comics. And it directly relates to what they're doing with Battle for Super Sons. So if I go, to give you an example, I got to the end of My Hero Academia Season 5, okay? Mm-hmm. At the end of it, it goes into manga volume 27. I then went out and bought 5 volumes of the manga, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and read them all. And then proceeded to tell Dan to freaking read these, and he didn't. But that's a different argument for another day.
Sure.
Nope.
But that directly got me to buy the manga, which increased the manga sales. Same thing happened with Spy Family. I watched the cartoon it's cartoons, whatever, anime.
It is a cartoon,
yeah. It is a cartoon. I watched the anime up to the episode 12, bought the manga to continue seeing what's happening to these characters while I was invested in it. I did the same thing with many other series, okay? Yeah. Dragon Ball Super is a great example. A lot of people don't realize this, but that thing has still been going. Like, it seemingly has ended, but it hasn't. Like, Vegeta's got a super form and stuff like that. Like, the movie had Gohan, so you already know these other forms exist. Okay. But the point I'm making is, one of the reasons I feel manga sales are doing so well is because they know how to cross-promote. Okay, so right now, if they cross-promote something, like you're gonna go watch My Hero Academia season 1 through 5. You watch it all. You are hooked. You have watched 110 episodes of this show. You also read comic books and stuff like that. So it just kind of lines up to let me go see where it left off and go read that. Yeah. Like it's in the vein of that. It makes you want to go read that. You don't normally see things that are outside of the manga. When they're called OVAs. It's a whole different thing. But they don't exist as commonly as they do with the U.S. side. On the U.S. side, we have things like Killing Joke, where they alter the story and they add to the story. And that doesn't make you want to go buy the book. Or we have things like what they did with a lot of the movies recently, where they take 5 or 6 different stories and they meld them into one story, so you don't know what to expect.
Yeah. No, that's... The problem is, if we can just cut to the heart of it, I mean, there's a fundamental separation between the two industries / studios, and I'm more willing to have this kind of conversation about like anime, manga versus comics / their direct DVD / like, animated adaptations,
right?
Because comics and manga are two completely different industries that are run completely differently.
Japan treats them like a treasure. They need to be, everyone reads it. It's a thing in their culture.
Right, and the West treats them like kitty garbage. Like, just that's how it is. Or IP farms. But either way, they're two different industries. They're two different conversations. When it comes to adaptations of media, now we can start having the conversation about how Warner Brothers doesn't care about comic books or the works they have. They're only interested in making money. And when I say only interested in making money, of course they are the corporation, but like they're only interested in how much money they can make off of a thing that they already own. Manga and anime, they're like, well, these are two thriving industries that we can do. If manga is thriving and we adapt it into an anime, then both will succeed.
Right.
Makes sense to me. With DC/Warner's, they're like, well, comics are garbage. They sell horribly, but we're in the film industry, and the Western film industry is made up of egomaniacs who think they're creative. And so you have this horrible combination of greed and ego combined into this thing where they're like, well, since the comics are trash, but we know we can steal their ideas and make something out of them into like this movie, but my ego is so great that I can't just do what the other writer did.
Right.
I have to change it into something that now suddenly fundamentally doesn't work. You know, like the Hush adaptations, or like any animated DC adaptation over the last 20 years. Like, why they're so fundamentally unfulfilling is because they changed the damn thing, and they don't regard them. Apropos of this Batman, the Super Sons movie, I saw a clip of it. The animation is dog shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it is lazy, lowest common denominator. It's not even like the new adaptation where it's like the latest DC movies have had like a very specific, simplistic style to them. But this new movie is CG that's made to look like 2D.
Yeah.
And it is so stiff and wooden and gross. You can only assume they did it for budgetary reasons. And so they churn out this thing that doesn't resemble anything. It kind of resembles the thing it's adapted from, but isn't the thing it's adapted from. And it's technically an animation, but it's so ugly that like you just made something for nobody.
Right. Well, you see, so Dan, do you have a point you want to bring in before I
Sorry.
move on to the next point? Oh no, you're fine. So okay, because what I was gonna say is the problem is like one of the core issues with adapting comic books to animation is they don't like to let comic books live on. They want to reboot them. They want to restart them.
Yeah.
Taking Super Sons as an example right now, I found a Twitter thread that brought up every appearance of the Super Sons. Every. I did not know about half of these because they were restarted series that I didn't know existed. The one in particular I'm thinking of, there was the original Super Sons, and then there was Challenge of the Super Sons. There's Adventure of the Super Sons right in the middle of that I didn't know was a thing.
Yeah, it was, it wasn't very long. I think it was like a double length kind of thing. Like it was only a few issues.
They all went 12 issues each. But that's
really?
still 36 issues total of Super Sons, plus additional appearances, which accounted for almost another 10 appearances.
Yeah.
So in the American market, they're just going to merge all of that to tell their own unique story about the Super Sons.
Great.
When what they should do is if you want to make a movie, take the first 12, that's your movie. And then you literally can tell people, go read Adventures of the Super Sons and Challenge of the Super Sons. But no one's going to do that because you're not going to let them know it exists.
They've never done that because they don't like comic books. Like they don't regard them. I don't think they perceive any kind of value in recommending it because for them, it's a competitor. Like for them, they're like, why would I recommend they read a book when they should be watching my movies?
Right. And I don't understand that because I've been watching manga, I've been reading manga, watching anime since I was a kid. I grew up in those days where I went to Best Buy and bought the DVD with 3 episodes of Hellsing and Cowboy Bebop and had to wait 8 months for another one to get localized.
Totally.
And you want to talk about, Dan, about waiting? How about not knowing when it's coming back? At all.
Oh, yeah.
I used to get like bootlegs from like Japan or whatever. That was like the terribly dubbed versions. I remember buying like the full bootleg. I got that was it Escaflowne. I got that one horribly dubbed. It was like the bootleg and stuff like that. And I watched all of Escaflowne, all of Trigun that way. But anyway, I digress. Like I don't do that all the time. That's what blows my mind about what they're doing. Because even those New 52 movies, the ones that they just did.
Yeah.
They took multiple plots and melded them into this. So you don't know what to expect. The reason that bothers me is anime has proven time and time again it doesn't matter if it's the same. Because if you make it the same, it will still sell because now you have new viewers and the people that are like, I want to see that on the screen.
Exactly. I'll do you one better. More people will watch it than have read it.
Yes.
So you're still going to surprise people.
And when that happens, like right now, I linked a thing to Dan this morning. I said, no context, My Hero Academia. Dan is now just like, I can't wait to see what happens with that image. Okay?
Yes.
I tweeted it too, Dan. That image has been making the rounds. That's why I made sure to grab that one. So
the Edgelord,
Edgelord Deku, yeah. That's what he dubbed him. There's an actual name for it in the book, but I'm not going to say that.
I like Edgelord Deku more because that's exactly what it looks like.
That's the image that has been making the rounds. That's why I chose that one. I'm like, there's a good chance he's already seen this. So
I had not.
But did that not get you hyped up, Dan, for when that actually reveals itself in the show?
Yes. No, I am very interested to see why he looks like that.
Did you, for a moment, consider buying the manga, or at least coming to my house and getting it?
I did. Honestly, I did. And then I was like, I've watched and like I am so hooked on the anime portion, like personally, and I have not read any of the manga that I'm like, it's kind of sometimes when like the dub catches up and the sub continues and you're like, well, I'm so hooked on the voices for the dub. Do I want to swap for the story or do I want to wait for the characters' voices that I have bonded to?
Everyone's telling you to do it, Dan. I think you should read it.
Well,
I think you'll be like me where you're just excited to see it on screen. But we'll have that discussion off the air. You really should catch up. Anyway, because I'm going to take this one step further, Sal. Yeah. So I've been watching the series Demon Slayer off and on, but I've been catching up slowly because it's pretty much all done in manga format.
Okay.
What they do and what is theorized is going to happen with the Dragon Ball superhero movie that just came out, Dragon Ball Heroes Superheroes or whatever it's called, Dragon Ball Superheroes.
Yes, that's right. Yes, Superheroes.
The terribly named one.
Uh-huh.
They are literally taking a manga chapter, turning it into a movie, then taking the movie, stretching it out to 7 or 8 episodes. They are triple dipping. They're taking a page from the comic Storian book where we literally do a complete story, a full story, break the full story into mini full stories. Like, we've already made the content. Let's just keep pumping it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but once again, this is why I'm baffled.
Right.
The Japanese market has shown this to work time and time and time again.
Yeah.
They didn't just start doing this 3 years ago.
Right.
This is what it was doing when I was a kid and reading manga.
Yeah. The Western comic book industry, if we can talk about that for just a second, could learn a lot from the manga industry. But the chief among them is, like, I get how the Western comic market works, and I get how like the individual like direct market works, and they keep like rebooting and reset, like the Daredevil series from Chip Zdarsky, where it's like, it's great, it's going great, and then they reboot it, but it's still exactly the same story, and it's still continuing like it didn't reboot. We got like 2 volume 1s in 2 years. Mm-hmm. That's fine, but in the trade market, you keep that going. Like, you don't screw that up.
Oh yeah.
Like because that's where the sweetest plum is in the trade market, because that's how manga sells. Manga doesn't sell like 1 issue at a time on the rack every month. It sells volumes. So the DC and Marvel,
there's a way to get your chapters, which is Shonen Jump for most people. There's a way to get your chapters
exactly
as they're coming out, and then they quickly spin that into a volume.
Bingo. And that's, honestly, the Western market has learned to do that, because like trades come out crazy fast and overpriced to the nth degree. But in this case, all you got to do is just like, and you see like the confusing, terrible way in which they do it. Like you'll see like reprints of old runs. Like, I've been looking for the Alan Grant Nor Breyfogle Batman runs, and it's like, oh well, those are in a volume called like Batman the Detective or Caped Crusader, volume 4, and it's like, what are you doing? It was in we're talking about a run that's like Batman like 365 to 410. Okay, that's volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you just keep going.
I just dealt with that. With Black Panther. We were looking for Black Panther stories, and I'm like, Enemy of the State. Enemy of the State's gonna be a great Black Panther story to tell.
Totally.
You cannot get it individually because now it's been repackaged. Instead of being volume 1 of that particular Black Panther run, now it's a part of Christopher Priest Complete Collection Volume 2.
Right, like,
And
no.
those
You don't
are-
call it Christopher Priest's Collection. You just call it Black Panther Volume 1 through 10.
It's worse. Those are going out of print so that they can bring you the Christopher Priest Omnibus.
Well, and that's like Marvel does it differently because it's Marvel, and Marvel doesn't like to have overstock. Like Marvel doesn't want inventory. So like you will have a trade that's worth $5 less than they're charging you for it.
Yeah.
And then it will go out of print. So you have to pay $200 in Amazon for it, which no one's going to do. It's just that's how much Amazon sellers are going to charge for it because they're like, well, it's out of print and we don't know when it ever will be again. And it's like, no. Trade paperbacks should not be as rare as the individual issues.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But back to so going back to the topic really on hand
Yes.
here, though, why
These
is
animated
Battle
movies.
for the Super Sons its own separate entity?
Right.
Why didn't they even just start with the Super Sons initial 6 issues introduction battle against, I believe it was like Brainiac's kid or whatever, or like somebody with the
Oh, yeah,
technology or something?
Yeah, Kid Amazo.
Kid
Kid
Amazo,
Amazo,
that
that's
was it. Yeah, that was it.
Honestly, the reason they do it is because they don't know if there's going to be more. And so they don't want to set up like a series if it's because they don't want to be, again, ego.
But you don't
Like,
need to, Sal. That's the problem.
I know.
The
No,
Kid
just like,
Amazo
it's-
ended with the Super Sons being like, and now we're the Super Sons.
Right. Like, you don't need to hedge your bets about, like, whether the show is going to continue. It's not going to end on a cliffhanger in a traditional sense. It's
Yeah.
just going to end on a, like, continuation that you could pick up from. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, they don't because their egos are so, like, problematic that they, like, it gets in there. It's so massive in a way. Like, they can't see the forest for the trees. Like, they don't understand that horrible Hush adaptation, right? Or that terrible Long Halloween adaptation.
Yeah.
Where it was like, what are you doing? Just do the comic book. Like, I don't understand. Remember when they did those
Especially
those
ones
Batman-
like those ones that are like so seminally like, this is amazing.
where, like,
There's no
everyone loves
issues.
those.
Yeah.
They're award winning. You stole from them to make your live action movies. Well, now you can make the realest one, and they're like, nah. Like literally, Long Halloween, they stole from it twice. They loved
Yeah.
it so much, and then they had the opportunity to make the movie, and they were like, let's mess with it. Let's make something different. You know, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And
It's like
they
they're
do
scared
it-
that if they're scared that the comic readers aren't going to go see this thing in live action.
I don't
They're
know.
scared of that, and I don't know
I
why
think-
they're scared of that.
I think they're scared that, like, if they do it, if they just did the comic book, then it is an acknowledgement that the comic books have value and that these people who we hire to make them are good at their jobs and maybe just as good at our jobs. Like, I think that's what it is.
I think it's a combo of that as well as people don't want to share success.
Yeah, big time.
And so it's a situation where they're like, well, if we do the perfect adaptation of that comic in a movie format, people are going to go, oh, yeah, it's good because the comic's good. They're not going to go, oh, it's good because those movie makers made a good movie. And so that's why they have to change it. So they go, oh, yeah, you should watch the movie version. They made it so much better because everyone has this competitive, I have to do it better than you mindset. And
What makes it more baffling to follow
get
up with
the
that, Dan?
Hush.
MCU does that. They make their own
Yeah.
stories out of existing stories.
Totally.
But they've made their own universe out of that. Like
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
literally its own thing at this point.
yeah, and
Like,
that
DC
and like that
hasn't
works
been able
because
to
it's
do that.
like multiple universes is already in the comics. So like these kind of things,
Yeah.
it fits with it. But when you take an exact story and you change it so that Riddler is Hush, you piss people off. Is
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
you do.
Especially
The thing
when
with
Riddler's
this-
already involved. Riddler's involved.
Yes.
We just need Hush to be Hush.
And it's
That's
good
all we
enough.
needed.
Yeah.
Huh?
Nope. Yeah. Like the Riddler involvement in the comic book worked well enough. Like I had a problem with Hush, but like let them be the problems, right? Like
Yeah.
or call Jeff Loeb and have him write it again. You know, what is the single most celebrated and beloved DC adaptation in animation of all time? Under the Red Hood.
Oh, yeah.
Under the Red Hood. It has surpassed the comic. And what is it? It is a arguably better version of the comic book. It is a
But it
scaled
tells
down.
the story of
And who's
the
it
comic.
written by?
Is it written by him again?
The same guy. It's written by Judd Winnick. They asked Judd Winnick to come in and rewrite literally, it wasn't even called Under the Red Hood. It was called Under the Hood. Then they changed it to Under the Red Hood, and then now the trades are called Under the Red Hood.
Yep. No.
Like the blueprints are there. When Under the Red Hood came out, I remember being like, all right, they figured it out.
Yeah.
And then they just didn't. It was like Hulk versus Wolverine. Remember those Hulk versus Wolverine, Hulk versus Thor movies? I was like, holy crap, these are amazing. And it was like, what a great template. What a great idea. Keep doing this. They literally never did it again. I don't understand. And maybe it's because the sales weren't as good as they remember. Maybe it wasn't as good as they were projecting. But like, if they're good at all, keep doing it.
Yeah.
You know,
and then whenever they do finally get a win, they finally get like when they were doing a continual universe that everyone liked.
The New 52 universe, yeah.
They reboot it. Like, what? You didn't even get to all the stories. What are you doing?
No. Well, and what's funny is, like, they didn't even when they were doing those movies, they didn't even do New 52 movies. Like, they were like, let's do Hush in the New 52. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's not a New 52 story.
I'm just imagine a world where the next Batman project is just Batman New 52, issue 1 to issue 50, or Tom King's Batman from 1 to 70, whatever he got to. Like, they have these things that they can mine, but the problem is they'll turn it into an hour movie and just take all 50 issues of the New 52 and be like, so Court of the Owls shows up, then we gotta go right into Night of the Owls, then we're gonna go right to the Joker, and Joker is actually controlling the Court of the Owls. Like,
the thing, going back to the Super Sons thing, is it's a shame they're making all of these separate, because they made a perfect way to make them all work as kind of separate but the same with, I don't know if it was called Tales of the Super Sons or The Adventures of the Super Sons, but it was basically them when they were old, like they are grandparents and they're reading their stories to their grandchildren.
Yeah.
And it's like, you could very easily use that collective title and do different stories. And it works because it's like, oh yeah, of course they're going to have different stories from different periods of time with different things happening because they're telling a story that happened in their life. And like, it's just a shame that they never build off of those kind of things where they really do set a way to keep it collected and easy to find. But they're like, no, we should change one of the words in the title so slightly that they won't even be sure if it's something new.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. The whole thing just irritates me. I mean, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it regardless, but...
Right. It is indicative of a larger systemic problem that is inherent within the industry itself, which is just like, they don't regard the source material.
No.
And that's why anyone gets any traction on being like, the DC universe is screwed, they're going to kill the comic books. It's like, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do think that they don't care enough about the comic book arm because they don't use it properly. They don't even steal from it properly. Yeah. It's like you don't even care about it enough to steal from it properly.
I mean, we could have an entire discussion about the Volume 1 reboots and New Number 1 argument where they just continue the same plots that you already started today. That's one of my biggest arguments for manga because they just constantly reboot Batman or Superman. And you can't just find one guy's run. You can't just find one complete story. And they also don't make it clear that Scott Snyder and Tom King, while in the same timeline, it's a separate story.
Yeah,
like it's not.
But but it's part of the same story.
So it's like
the
same story.
The
but
Tom King run could be Volume 7. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you just keep going. Okay. Like at the very least, try something that makes it less difficult for people. You know, language exists, so we all have common ground through which we can communicate. And industries are built on language, and they have their own sort of language. And publishing is part of that language and has its own language. And so you use the language to have that. So if you're like, hey, I'm new, I'm lost, help me. You know, help is the universal word for assistance. Having numerical sequential volumes constantly in print and available to the audience that wants to give you money for it is like having a language for selling books. And it's like, Harry Potter doesn't say it's not 4. You know what I mean? Like, it's like 1 through 7.
Yeah.
There's 7 of them.
They don't get to 5 and go, this is the reboot, but not really.
Yeah, right. Or refuse to put numerical designations on them that give you an idea about what sequence to read them in.
Yeah.
Or say, oh, it doesn't, you know what? You can skip actually Harry Potter 1, 3, and 6 and then just read those. You don't want to, it gets weird around this one and this one. But like you skip those, but that's how we talk about comic books.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's broken.
Yeah.
So, but the movie thing is like, it's insulting. You know what I mean? Like, it's insulting that they don't just openly steal from the comic books and then make your money. I mean, remember that Death of Superman two-parter that they made, the animated movies?
Why wasn't it just the Death of Superman?
Right. Why not the Death of Superman? Why does Peter J. Tomasi, a comic book writer, only write one of them? Why did you get another writer for the second part of a movie?
I don't know what they're doing. But yeah, that's the discussion. What do you guys think? Do you like that the movies are different from the comic books? I mean, this is the discussion about the issues with them just restarting comics all the freaking time, making it impossible to follow, is a different discussion. But we're just trying to follow, do you want these separate movies, or would you prefer them just start adapting things, which would then lead people to want to go, like if this was 1 through 6, you could then go, okay, and here's the rest of the super set, and here's where you can find it. And I don't know why that's still not a thing. But anyway, we're absolutely Marvel and DC. Make sure you like, subscribe, give us your opinions down below. We'll see you next time right here.